disagreement on the committee as to what that is, or whether we do it, but I can see a benefit to having a later start time for high school students.
Well, as I said, the administrative council is beginning to look at the times for
Okay.
next year. They need to make a decision soon about, we've had 2 years of early schools with the Hood and the Badge,
Right.
Hood and the Little, and the Badge being the late school. Are we going to go back, to a 2-year stint or a 1-year stint as we did a number of years ago? So we're looking at this. I think the administrative council can certainly take this, they have this report, and try to take each one of these options, and now it comes down to what are the practical issues.
Right.
And to see, every one is going to create some level of a question. How many questions are there? What questions can be addressed easily? Which ones are not? And just to come up with a couple of options to see how we move forward.
And that's fine, but they should also be mindful that we need to give the public
Right.
ample notice.
Right.
So that
Right.
anyone planning schedules for next fall can adjust.
Right.
But would it also be accurate to say that the committee would like to, to let the administrative council know we would like the high schoolers at least to start
Well,
later?
if the committee wants to give that kind of, I think that would be helpful to
I mean,
take
I'd
it
like
back.
to
I'm hearing
sense
a
at least that
consensus here from
direction.
at least 4 of us. I don't know what
Yeah.
Jerry's feeling.
My feeling is, you can't argue with the research. I'm a little skeptical about the 15-minute thing. I
Yeah.
know that even Nicole said there's gotta be some value to that.
Right.
If we're gonna do it, it seems to me if you're gonna cause a change in scheduling, you're gonna cause potentially some changes in busing, maybe even some expenses, then we ought to do it to make it worthwhile. I'm not convinced that 15 minutes is.
No, I think,
worthwhile.
I think, again, the thing I look at now is if we could go from, what do we start now, 7:25?
7:30.
7:30.
If we could go from 7:30 to even 8 o'clock, where you're starting to,
I do
make a
think there's gonna be
difference.
some impact on the athletics.
Yeah,
We
right.
take some very long trips.
I know.
We take road trips to Manchester, and
Right.
Georgetown, and
Right.
Pawtucket,
Right.
and Newburyport.
Yeah.
And again, those are relatively long trips, so depending on what time you leave, by
Right.
the time they get ready to go, you're talking now after 4 o'clock to start games in the
Right.
spring and.
there definitely will be adjustments required if we were to do something like this.
Our athletic bus didn't take us home until 6 o'clock.
He did have
That was
sports.
after at practice.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that we have some long trips to take.
Right.
So I think in general, I think the consensus is to look at later times for the high school.
In
And
more
I would
depth.
go, so I would ask the committee to say something further on that, whether it would, whether if we are supporting, if it's appropriate, if it comes to that, earlier times for the elementary schools as well.
The other thing you could do is eliminate the high school buses too, if it became a problem to do both at the same time. You eliminate high school busing, then you don't have to deal with the
Right.
buses being overcrowded.
And how many high school students take high school buses? Very few, right?
Well, I think they have 4 and they're probably a third filled.
20 kids in each? maybe?
Yeah, something like that. But I think there were 4 dedicated, I'm not positive, I think it's
I
something.
think you're right.
But I
That's
think
something you
all
could do.
11 or 12 are used here at the middle
Oh,
school.
they are.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying, if you eliminate the high school buses,
So,
I
one
know.
possible structure, and I haven't thought about the ramifications for any other dimension of it, but where the middle school uses all of its buses, if they happen to start at 7:55, 8 o'clock, and then the high school and one elementary started at 8:30, and the other 2 elementaries at 9, that might work the bus.
Yeah, the high school and the
numbers.
batch together.
I don't, and get you to basically an hour for your high school kids, doesn't do anything for the middle school. There are other possible combinations of that, but
You don't want, I believe you don't want the high school and the batch at the same time because of just the
Shared
conflicting
driveway,
traffic with the
yeah.
students.
I think maybe you were
all
saying
the
on the same
student
bus.
traffic, okay.
No, I don't think I heard that.
No.
I just know I see high school
No,
kids
same.
at the bus stop at my house, it's 10 minutes of 7 in the morning, and, it's cold and they're
So
asleep.
you do the batch and the hood at the same time.
I guess I can't,
Excuse me, the high school and the hood at the same time.
I can't say to definitely move the elementary kids to earlier. I guess I don't.
I'm not saying definitely, I'm saying, would
I
we
just
support
consider
it
it.
if the recommendation?
Yeah, I definitely consider that. But I do think at the high school level is, you know, you have a lot of the issues with the scheduling, and there's a lot of things to be worked through, especially with athletic directors. The elementary level, there's, you know, what time kids are getting home in the afternoon and who's there to babysit for them issues. So there's issues on each side. But I do think in general, we support maybe
Well,
the.
I think this, one possibility is to look at the three-tiered system of
Mhm.
middle and then high school. The question also in my mind is how early do you make the middle school? Because it's when do you release those students in the afternoon?
Yeah, and
They're getting out at 2:16 now. I think having them to come out earlier would be.
Yeah, making that-
Well, they wouldn't
Making that
get
early
it
is almost
any
giving you a
earlier.
No,
purpose.
I know.
Yeah, I wouldn't
If
want to see
anything,
the
they'd
middle
get a few
school
minutes
earlier.
later.
Right, right. All right, so you will report back to us, David, and then we'll discuss once we hear recommendations back from the administrative committee. And as Nicole says, at some point, we'll have to have some level of public forum on this, probably in the same way we had the budget hearings, maybe not as many, but at least a couple of meetings.
I
Well-
want to
At
start
each
thinking
school.
about trying to schedule that as soon as the administrative
Right.
council made a
You
recommendation.
know, if
Yeah.
you
I mean-
amend it to the policy subcommittee, that's Steve and I.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying,
For
you
a few
remanded
days.
so you can give us some recommendations,
But-
not to make a decision.
I mean, so a possible order here could be a high school at 8 with an elementary school tagged at that time.
Mhm.
You could then go to the second elementary level, which puts the middle school at the latest time.
8:30.
Eight.
Would be a possibility.
8:55,
Or,
which would then be getting them out at 3:15.
or it could be two elementaries at 8, third elementary and the high school at 8:30, and the middle school at 9. And then your two elementaries would be closer together.
And maybe the administrators want to talk to their councils and get some feedback, and that would come back at the same time.
Right, because our most recent feedback from the administrative councils was, 3 years ago, so,
Right,
2.5
years ago.
Keep in mind too, that you're not just considering the starting of athletic events too, but you're considering the time the kids are gonna get back. Some of them
Yes.
won't be getting home till 7:30 at night.
Well, and I think there would be some disruption as the late fall, as the time, and in the early fall, they start the games at 4:00, 4:30 anyway, a lot of the soccer games in the fall, but then late fall, they have to move them up earlier, so,
Yeah.
all right.
You know,
I'm just talking
maybe we
about-
should just eliminate the sports program and then there's no need.
No, that's not a good idea.
I don't think anybody wants that to go.
All right, so David, we will wait for some feedback from you, and then we'll move forward on
I
that.
just wanna use Darren's channel.
Thank you, Nicole.
Using 2 bottles of
By the way,
Yes.
Nicole, did you write that?
Yes, that's exactly,
Did you write
yes,
that?
she
Yes, I
did.
did.
It was very well written.
I provided some editing, but I told her it was very good. You can tell she was a
Thank you.
copywriter at some point in her
Thank
life
you,
or
although I
something.
changed Dr. Troton's title, so he's the superintendent.
The superintendent.
But I made
well.
50 copies before I caught that.
Okay, so thank you, Nicole.
Well, worse.
Next, we have approval of policy, security, use of surveillance cameras, a first reading. As Steve noted, I brought 2 bottles of water tonight, knowing I had to read this policy.
The superintendent, excuse me.
Yeah. And this is related, of course, to our project, which I believe is commenced, David, to install security cameras in the high school and middle school, and beginning of security projects at the 3 elementary schools.
I got time in you, get ready.
Okay. So this is the first reading. Do we have a number on this, David, or?
I do.
Okay. So it's the first reading, policy, use of surveillance cameras on school property. The school committee recognizes its responsibility to promote school safety and foster a safe and effective learning environment. After having carefully considered and balanced the rights of privacy with the district's duty to promote discipline, health, welfare, and safety of students and staff, as well as that of the general public who have occasion to use school facilities, the school committee supports the use of surveillance cameras in its schools or on school grounds. Surveillance cameras will only be utilized in public areas within the schools and on school property where there is no reasonable expectation of privacy. Use of surveillance cameras will be restricted to major exterior entrances and exits, large gathering spaces including corridors, cafeteria, lobbies, and libraries, and school parking lots. No surveillance devices will be placed in classrooms, locker rooms, restrooms, staff dining areas, or private offices. Audio recording shall not be utilized by the school district. Such prohibition does not preclude the use of audio recordings by law enforcement officials in accordance with their official duties and/or as otherwise authorized by law. To further the school committee's objective, the school district safety and security committee shall meet as appropriate to review the school safety plan and to develop, implement, and review district and school level safety practices. The school safety and security committee shall also make recommendations to the superintendent regarding the implementation and use of surveillance cameras as authorized by the school committee. In determining the most appropriate use and implementation of surveillance cameras in the schools and/or in school grounds, the following guidelines will be followed. 1. Demonstrated need for the surveillance device at designated locations. 2. Appropriateness and effectiveness of proposed protocol. 3. Use of additional, less intrusive means to further address the issues of school safety, e.g. restricted access to buildings, use of pass cards, visitor sign-ins, identification badges, increased lighting, alarms, etc. 4. Right to privacy and other legal considerations. 5. Expense involved to install and maintain the use of surveillance cameras at designated locations. 6. Access to surveillance devices by public safety officials. A video recording used for surveillance purposes in school buildings and/or on school property shall be the sole property of the North Reading Public Schools. All video recordings will be stored in their original format and secured to avoid tampering and to ensure confidentiality in accordance with applicable laws and regulations. Requests for viewing a video recording must be made in writing to the superintendent and/or his/her designees, and, if the request is granted, such viewing must occur in the presence of the superintendent and/or his/her designees. Under no circumstances will the district's video recording be duplicated, transmitted, and/or removed from the district's premises unless in accordance with a court order and/or subpoena. Appropriate signage will be posted at entrances to the school campus and/or at major entrances into school buildings notifying students, staff, and the general public of the district's use of surveillance cameras. Students and staff will receive additional written notification as appropriate regarding the use of surveillance cameras in the school and/or school grounds. Such notification may include, but it is not limited to, publication in student parent handbooks and employee handbooks. And this is first reading, March 24th, 2008. Do I have a motion to accept first reading?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Discussion?
My only concern is that there is nothing in here about the disposition of such records. I think there should be another policy put together at some point. I don't think there's any immediacy for it because it'll be a while before you're ready to get rid of any of these records, but I think there should be a policy that dictates how they're discarded
Or how many years they're kept, or,
that sort of thing.
right,
Yeah, and they're taped over.
right. That's a good idea.
Yeah, they're not taped, this is digital,
This is
so-
digital,
Oh.
right.
Yeah.
They're all on disc or, right.
But I don't think we have to hold this up for that because it'll be a while before that would be kicking in.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a question, David, I know it says that the recordings can't leave the property, but if the police wanted to come down and view them, they would have to come down. They have the right to ask you.
They actually will have access, because this is a digital recording, they will have password protection access.
Okay. Do we need to mention that in here? It doesn't.
I think it is.
It mentions the police. Let's see, it's in here somewhere.
At the end of the first paragraph talks about audio.
Oh, right. That's audio,
That's a
right.
different issue.
Request for viewing must be made in writing. If it's granted, the viewing must occur in the presence of the superintendent, and under no circumstances will it be duplicated or removed from the premises. But there's no mention that there will be an off-site.
Well, it says it can be removed if there's a court order or subpoena. So if the
Right.
police have a court order or a subpoena, they can get access to the data, correct?
Yes.
But are you saying that the police will have a password and the ability to go on their computer and
Yes,
see?
that's part of the point, that if there was a safety violation and under our safety plan, the police are called, and they're trying to determine what's going on.